At 75, Joyce DeWitt finally revealed the unsettling truth behind Three's Company, the iconic sitcom that had once made America laugh. While the show portrayed the light-hearted lives of three quirky roommates, the reality behind the scenes was far from cheerful. The male lead was paid 5 times more than the women, and when one of the actresses, blonde and bold, dared to ask for equal pay, the industry retaliated harshly. She was isolated, forced to film alone, alienated from her co-stars, and ultimately blacklisted from Hollywood. Now, the curtain is being pulled back on a show that, despite its success, was plagued by greed, lies, and broken trust. It all began in early 1976 when Fred Silverman, newly appointed head of programming at ABC, was hunting for a bold new concept. He came across a British sitcom, Man About the House, which revolved around 2 single women living with a single man, an idea considered too risque by the other networks. But Silverman, who had admired the concept during his time at CBS, saw potential. He approached producers Don Taffner and Ted Boardman to adapt it for an American audience, hoping to create something fresh that pushed the boundaries, just as All in the Family had done. The first attempt to adapt the show missed the mark. Broadway writer Peter Stone placed the story in New York, made the lead a chef at a French restaurant, and surrounded him with polished, upscale roommates, a secretary, and a fashion model. The result felt too glamorous, too disconnected from everyday life. Silverman rejected it. What the show needed was a more relatable setting, something that felt real, something like Santa Monica. That's when Larry Gelbart, the mind behind MASH *, reluctantly got involved. Working with his son-in-law Gary Markowitz, he helped create a more grounded version. Markowitz even came up with a now-famous title, Three's Company. In their take, the male lead was a wannabe filmmaker living with 2 everyday women, a DMV worker, and an aspiring actress in a modest North Hollywood apartment. Gelbart eventually stepped away, but his vision helped set the tone, familiar yet edgy. Casting the show was another challenge. ABC went through 3 pilots without finding the right actress for Chrissy Snow. Just before filming began, Silverman, in a desperate late-night review of audition tapes, stumbled upon Suzanne Summers. He'd remembered her from The Tonight Show and couldn't believe she'd been overlooked. She was immediately called in, and with that, Chrissy Snow was born. Summers would become one of television's most recognizable faces, helping the show last 8 seasons and produce over 170 episodes. Her casting, however, wasn't the only close call. Producers also hesitated about John Ritter as Jack Tripper. His physical comedy, they feared, might make audiences believe the character was actually gay, not just pretending, as the plot required. The doubts grew so strong that Silverman had to step in once again, declaring, "Ritter stays." That decision proved wise. Ritter's energetic slapstick and expressive face became the heartbeat of the show, earning him both an Emmy and a Golden Globe. Before him, actors like Barry Van Dyke, Michael Lembeck, and even Billy Crystal were considered, but it's now impossible to imagine anyone else in the role. The cast wasn't just talented, they were principled. Just 6 episodes in, Joyce DeWitt, who played Janet, refused to say a line she felt unfairly insulted a prostitute. She believed her character wouldn't judge someone that way. When the producer pushed, Ritter offered to say the line instead, but DeWitt stood firm. "Bring a gun," she said. "I still won't say it." Later, when ABC tried to backtrack on a promise raise, she skipped work and confronted the network head directly, not for money, but for integrity. She got her raise, and respect. ABC showed similar commitment when it came to casting Audrey Lindley as Mrs. Roper. Though she was already booked for a play, the network paid $8,000 to buy out the entire theater so she could tape the pilot. The investment paid off. Her chemistry with Norman Fell was so strong, the duo earned their own spin-off, The Ropers, just 2 years later. When Three's Company premiered on March 15, 1977, expectations were low. It was a short 6-episode spring tryout. No one predicted it would become a TV classic. But behind the laughter was a story of creative risk, behind-the-scenes battles, and people willing to fight for what was right, even when the cameras weren't rolling. When Three's Company was first pitched, network executives were skeptical, but viewers had other plans. The show's quirky premise, a man pretending to be gay to live with 2 women, immediately caught the public's attention. From the very first episode, A Man About the House, the cast's natural chemistry and comedic timing resonated with audiences, landing the show at number 28 in the weekly ratings. This surprise success only grew, and by the sixth episode, airing on April 21st, 1977, it had become a breakout hit. Ratings surged to a 23.1 average, placing it at number 11 for the entire 1976-77 season, an extraordinary feat for a mid-season replacement. ABC wasted no time in renewing it, giving it a prime slot following Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. The strategy paid off. In the 1977-78 season, the show climbed to number 3 nationwide, attracting nearly a third of all TV households. The next year, it reached number 2 with an astonishing 30.3 rating, securing its place as a cultural phenomenon. However, the show's risque humor drew criticism from conservative groups. The PTA disapproved, and the National Federation for Decency launched a campaign to pressure sponsors to withdraw support. While some advertisers pulled out, ABC stood by the show. The controversy only fueled public curiosity, as debates often do, drawing even larger audiences. Beyond the laughs, Three's Company quietly challenged conventional family structures. Jack, Janet, and Chrissy, and later Cindy and Terry, formed a makeshift family based on friendship, chaos, and loyalty. Their shared apartment in Santa Monica became a symbol of chosen family, influencing future sitcoms like Friends and Will and Grace, which also celebrated non-traditional relationships and home life. Still, not everything was smooth behind the scenes. When actor Richard Klein tried to discuss his character during a rehearsal, producers punished him by sidelining him for 4 weeks, highlighting the rigid control behind the camera. In 1978, the entire cast appeared on the cover of Newsweek for a story about sex and TV, but the photo shoot caused backlash. The cast had been unaware of the provocative marketing angle. John Ritter and Joyce DeWitt were particularly upset, believing the feature would focus on comedy rather than sex appeal. Suzanne Somers also expressed discomfort, and the incident stirred tensions both among the cast and with the public. Even the show's now iconic theme song almost took a strange turn. Producers initially wanted the three leads to sing it, but they couldn't carry a tune. Composer Joe Raposo brought in another Ray Charles, not the famous musician, but a TV session singer to coach them. After trying for an hour, the producers asked Charles for his opinion. Not wanting to be rude, he said, "I'm not sure." They laughed and replied, "Well, we like the way you sing it." That's how Ray Charles and Julia Rinka Miller ended up recording the memorable opening, supported by top-tier session musicians like Hal Blaine on drums and Tommy Tedesco on guitar. Meanwhile, Suzanne Somers was making bold moves behind the scenes. During the first season, she gave up a salary from the first 6 episodes to hire Jay Bernstein, the manager who helped make Farrah Fawcett a star. Her gamble was clear: make me famous, or it's all for nothing. At the time, Three's Company was an unproven mid-season show, but Summers was betting on its success, and her own. It paid off. Within a year, she appeared on 55 magazine covers. Bernstein later admitted he didn't think she was especially talented or beautiful, but he saw an undeniable drive in her, saying, "I hadn't seen that kind of passion since Sammy Davis Jr. Suzanne's self-investment turned her into one of TV's most recognizable faces in the late 1970s. Despite the show's success and Summers' popularity, particularly with a highly sought-after demographic of women aged 18-49, there was a stark pay gap. John Ritter, the show's lead, earned $150,000 per episode, while Suzanne and Joyce DeWitt each made just $30,000. Early on, Suzanne had been thrilled to earn $3,500 a week as a struggling single mom, but as the show grew into a hit, she couldn't ignore the disparity. Other male stars like Alan Alda and Carol O'Connor were pulling in 6 figures. Heading into the 5th season in 1980, Summers asked for equal pay, $150,000 per episode and 10% of the show's profits. She told her co-stars, "If you back me up, we'll all get it. I'll take the heat." Her husband, former producer Alan Hamill, handled negotiations, warning her that the network might not respond well. He was right. ABC's response was cold. "Who do you think you are? John Ritter is a star." They offered her just a $5,000 raise, which she declined. What Summers didn't know was that the timing couldn't have been worse. ABC was still bitter over giving Lovin and Shirley Starr's Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams a massive raise after their own salary standoff. The network was determined to prevent another high-profile actress from demanding equal treatment. According to Hamill, ABC decided to make an example of Summers. She wasn't the title character, and they believed she could be replaced without harming the show. So, they fired her, but they didn't just fire her. Despite still being under contract, she was humiliated. Her role was slashed to just 60 seconds per episode, and she was filmed alone on a separate set, pretending to speak on the phone with the other characters. She wasn't allowed to see her castmates, and a security guard escorted her to and from the set, treating her like a criminal. The people she once worked with every day began ignoring her. The producers painted her as greedy, accusing her of trying to ruin the show, and most of the cast believed it. She found herself completely isolated. The emotional toll with severe friendships ended, and her career came to a standstill. She couldn't even get an interview for years, blacklisted from television, simply because she dared to ask for equal pay. Suzanne Summers' abrupt departure from Three's Company in 1981 triggered major upheaval. Producers, caught off guard, rushed to fill the void with Jenna Lee Harrison as Cindy Snow, Chris's clumsy cousin. But the replacement felt forced. Cindy lacked the same charm and chemistry, and audiences didn't connect with her. Ratings plummeted, and the character was soon sidelined. In the search for a better fit, a young Heather Locklear auditioned on Valentine's Day in 1982. Nervous, she placed tissues under her arms to avoid sweating through her outfit, but one fell out during her reading, causing the room to erupt in laughter. Embarrassed but undeterred, she finished her audition. Though she didn't land the role, she later found fame on Dynasty and Melrose Place. Eventually, Priscilla Barnes was cast as Nurse Terry Alden. From the start, tensions were high. Producers controlled everything from her hair color and weekly weigh-ins to her wardrobe, often pushing her into uncomfortable outfits. Barnes later described her 3 years on the show as pure misery, though she stayed until it ended in 1984. With Chrissy gone, writers struggled to maintain the show's humor. They shifted focus to Jack Tripper, John Ritter, and leaned heavily on Don Knotts' character, Mr. Furley. While Knotts brought laughs, the show's tone changed. Joyce DeWitt, who played Janet, sensed a creative decline too. She proposed new directions for her character, perhaps opening a flower shop or pursuing career goals, but the producers stuck to safe, repetitive plots. In the end, Janet was married off in the finale, a conclusion DeWitt felt didn't suit the independent woman she had portrayed. Viewership continued to slide, and by the final season, ratings had dropped by more than 20%. ABC nearly pulled the plug but allowed a shortened final season to secure syndication eligibility. Norman Fell, who played nosy landlord Mr. Roper, hadn't wanted to leave the show. But in 1979, producers offered him and Audra Lindley Mrs. Roper their own spin-off, The Ropers, promising they could return to Three's Company if the new show failed after one season. That promise was even put in writing. The spin-off started strong, ending its first season in the top 10, but suffered a fatal blow when ABC moved it to Saturday nights, where viewership dropped. Despite Fell's pleas, the network wouldn't change the time slot. In May 1980, 1 month after the contractual return window closed, ABC canceled The Ropers. Fell believed the cancellation had been intentionally delayed to block their return, especially since Don Knotts had already taken over as the new landlord. Norman and Audra made one final guest appearance in 1981, and that was the end for The Ropers. Behind-the-scenes tensions escalated during the final season. Joyce DeWitt accidentally discovered producers holding secret auditions for a new spin-off called Three's a Crowd, where they sought Jack Tripper's new girlfriend. What stunned her most was that John Ritter knew about it and hadn't told the rest of the cast. This betrayal shifted the mood on set, especially coming from someone they once saw as a friend. Meanwhile, Suzanne Summers made a surprising move. Her husband pitched the idea of her returning to play Jack's wife in the new spin-off. Despite having been blacklisted and threatened with lawsuits in the past, this was a potential reconciliation. But producers had already chosen Mary Carteret for the role. For Suzanne, the door closed for good. Neither The Ropers nor Three's a Crowd captured the original show's charm. The Ropers lost its magic after moving the couple to an upscale neighborhood, while Three's a Crowd struggled with tone and writing. It also faced stiff competition from the A-Team and lacked the chemistry of the original trio. Although ABC wanted another short season, John Ritter declined. He wanted a full commitment or nothing. They chose nothing. Years later, Joyce DeWitt reflected on it all. She didn't dwell on the business disputes or betrayals. What stayed with her were the fan people who said the show had helped them through hard times or made them feel seen and safe. Three's Company wasn't just about comedy and misunderstandings. It was about love, trust, and friendship. Despite the chaos behind the scenes, the show brought comfort to millions, something Joyce called a blessing. In 2003, 1 month before his sudden death, John Ritter made a surprising phone call to Suzanne Summers. They hadn't spoken in over 20 years. "Hey, babe," he said, "I forgive you." Suzanne was stunned. She wanted to respond with, "You forgive me," but held her tongue. He invited her to appear on his new show, 8 Simple Rules, alongside Joyce in a dream sequence. Suzanne declined, but suggested they find another project together. They agreed to reconnect, but never got the chance. John died of a heart condition at just 54. Though heartbreaking, Suzanne later said she was grateful for that call. At least, in the end, they had made peace.